So let's talk about the 1929 market crash. But we're not going to do it like a history lesson. No, we're going to look at it through a really unique philosophical lens. Why? Because inside this story is a mental model, a timeless pattern that shows how success, get this, actually creates its own failure. And if you're a trader, understanding this pattern, well, it's everything.
This quote from the philosopher Hegel is going to be our guide. And it's a bit of a mind-bender, right? But what he's saying is profound. What looks like progress, like the beautiful blossom, actually has to be destroyed for the next stage, the fruit, to even begin. The roaring bull market of the 1920s didn't end in spite of its incredible success. It ended because of it.
And that leads us right to our core idea, dialectical thinking. Now forget everything you think about outside forces or black swan events attacking a system. This framework is all about looking inside. It's about how a system's own internal logic, the very engine that makes it successful, becomes the very thing that tears it apart when it's pushed to an extreme.
All right, so here's the game plan. We're going to follow Hegel's structure. First, the thesis. That's the roaring success of the 1920s. Then we'll see how that success created its own opposite, the antithesis, the crash. After that, we'll look at the synthesis, which is how the system learned and transformed itself. And finally, the most important part, we'll apply this whole model directly to you, the individual trader.
Okay, let's dive right into part one, the thesis. This was a moment in time when this powerful, collective belief took hold. You could almost call it a spirit of infinite progress, a feeling that convinced an entire nation that the good times were not just here, but they were here to stay forever.
And you can see why they believed it. I mean, the numbers were just staggering. After World War I, the U.S. economy was on fire. We're talking 4.2% annual growth. Car production more than doubled. And radios, they went from basically zero to being in 10 million homes. This wasn't just growth, right? This felt like a complete, permanent transformation of society itself.
So that's the big question, isn't it? What was the engine behind all this? Because hidden deep inside that powerful engine was the system's fatal flaw.
Well, the answer was something totally new, the credit revolution. For the first time ever, regular people could buy pretty much anything, cars, radios, you name it, on installment. It created this powerful illusion of wealth, but it was basically a house of cards built on one single promise, that your future paycheck would always show up to pay for today's spending.
And if you think that was something, in the stock market, this whole idea of credit was magnified to an insane degree. By 1929, you could buy stocks on just 10% margin. Just think about that for a second. For every $100 of your own money, you could control $1,000 worth of stock. This leverage absolutely supercharged the market on the way up.
And this, right here, this is the absolute heart of the dialectic. See, leverage wasn't just some risk that was added to the system. It was the system. The very mechanism that was creating all this incredible wealth was, by its very nature, the exact same mechanism that was going to destroy it. The tool and the weapon were literally one and the same.
And here we have it, the absolute peak of the thesis. Just a few days before the entire thing came crashing down, one of the most respected economists in America said this: "This is what happens when a system is so wildly successful. It becomes structurally deaf. Any evidence that contradicts the narrative is just noise, because to actually believe it would mean admitting the entire system is a lie."
And just like that, things turn. But see the crash, the negation? It wasn't some new event that came out of nowhere. It was always there, lurking inside the boom itself. So now we move to the antithesis, and we get to watch how that permanent high plateau crumbled into dust.
It all happened so fast. It was just terrifying. The market peaks in early September, and then it starts to get shaky. On Black Thursday, a group of powerful bankers literally tried to intervene to prop it up. It was this final, desperate attempt by the thesis to save itself. But it didn't work. The next week, on Black Monday and Tuesday, it was a complete free fall. By mid-November, not even 2 months after the peak, the market had been cut almost in half.
So how on earth did it happen that fast? Well, the system literally turned on itself. It's a death spiral. Prices start to fall. That triggers a margin call from the broker. An investor who can't come up with the cash is forced to sell their stock to cover the loan. That forced selling pushes prices even lower, which, you guessed it, triggers even more margin calls. The tool, margin, had become the weapon in this vicious, self-consuming feedback loop.
So this is the most crucial point. We have to stop seeing the boom and the crash as two separate things, as opposites. They are one single process.
The crash was simply the logical, inevitable conclusion of the boom. The very same forces that built that permanently high plateau were the exact same forces that guaranteed it would be destroyed.
But look, the story doesn't just end there in a pile of rubble. Every collapse like this creates a chance for a synthesis. It's a moment where the system can actually learn the lesson of its own failure and evolve into something new, something more aware of its own built-in weaknesses.
Hegel has this amazing word for this process, Aufhebung. It's a brilliant concept, and it doesn't just mean compromise. It means you do three things at once. You cancel the part that was destructive, you preserve the part that was useful, and you elevate the whole system to a higher level of understanding. It's not just repair, it's true transformation.
And the New Deal regulations that came after the crash are a perfect example of Aufhebung in action. Look at the SEC. It didn't ban stock markets, it preserved them, but it canceled the crazy idea of pure self-regulation and elevated the system with outside oversight. Or Glass-Steagall. It preserved banking, but it canceled that dangerous mix of regular deposits and wild speculation. Each new rule kept what worked and built a structural safeguard based on the painful memory of what failed.
Okay, so that's the big picture history lesson. But now, let's make this about you. Because this entire dialectical process, this cycle of boom, bust, and learning, it plays out inside every single trader's mind and in every single trading account.
The parallels are just uncanny, aren't they? Back then, credit expansion felt like real wealth. For you, a string of early wins feels like pure skill. The market used leverage. You start increasing your position size. The market dismissed all the warnings. You start to think risk management is for beginners. And then the crash comes. The margin calls, the stop loss is cascading, the blown account. The only way forward is to build your own personal set of regulations out of that painful wreckage.
So let's boil this all down into 5 key lessons for you. 1. Whatever tool amplifies your gains will also amplify your losses. 2. A long winning streak makes you deaf to risk. 3. Your worst trading day is always born from your best trading day. 4. Survival is not luck. It is an active process of building structural rules. And 5, and this is a big one, your new rules are never permanent. They are just the next thesis waiting to be tested.
This is the absolute key takeaway. Your personal trading rules, your strict position sizing, your hard stop losses, your profit-taking targets, they are not there to limit your upside. They are your personal Aufhebung. They are the synthesis you build that preserves your ability to make money while canceling your ability to completely destroy yourself. So I want to leave you with this final thought. In the market and in your own trading account, this cycle is guaranteed to repeat. The crash, your personal crash, will come. The only question is whether you've learned enough from the past, from the market's failures and your own, to have built a personal synthesis that is strong enough to survive it.